that's what multitasking does. It gets us stuck. It keeps us far from our dreams, right? We get sober and we imagine our lives as best recovered life. But then we're like, oh, I'm still in the minutia and the junk. Like, no. If you just do one thing at a time and cross things off the list, you start to feel empowered and you start to become this this really strong person in recovery where people are like, what's going on with him? What's going on with him? That's cool. Look at all the stuff he's doing.
You're listening to the Recovered Life Show, the show that helps people in recovery live their best recovered lives. And here is your host, Damon Frank.
Welcome back to the Recovered Life Show. I am pleased to be joined today by Lane Kennedy. Lane is a Recovered Life contributor and mindfulness and meditation expert. How you doing, Lane?
Hi, Damon. It's great to be with you today.
Good to be with you. Look, this is an episode I have really been looking forward to. I have to tell you, and I'm so thrilled. We're in 2022. And one of the things on my New Year's resolutions, get rid of multitasking.
Yeah. Everybody is multitasking. I think when the pandemic hit, mothers had to multitask everything. Their whole life became about that. Fathers stuck in their office now, like everything. Everybody has become a multitasker, and I don't think it's working.
Lane, why did I ever think I could multitask? Looking back, it has never worked for me.
No.
I feel like it's just like those movies like where you see people off-roading, like you'll see this on ESPN and the Jeep is just stuck in the mud. Spinning. Yeah. That's what ends up. It seems like a good idea. Why does it seem like such a good idea and we're so attracted to it? But yet at the end of the day, the results just really suck.
It doesn't work. Our brains are not evolved to multitask. So there's 2.5% of the population. Actually, they're effective at it. That's not a lot of people. That's not me and you. It's not how we're made to do things. Our brains are actually made to really focus on one thing at a time. And when we find ourselves bouncing from one thing to the next, we lose creativity. We actually lose our focus. Our productivity goes down. Our cognitive ability drops. So multitasking is not for us. We're not made that way.
I blame radio at first for this. Back in the day, it used to be radio where I'd have radio in the background.
Yeah.
And look, sometimes
but radio is okay. I'm just going to say radio is okay.
But then it went to YouTube and then it went to and I noticed something, Lane, and I don't know if a lot of your clients tell you this, but I found the other day I didn't have my cell phone and I found that I wasn't doing 5 things at one time.
Yeah.
And I felt very uncomfortable about it.
Oh no.
Right. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is such a weird feeling. And I was like, oh, you know what? I can actually concentrate. I was doing a little home project. I was like, I can actually concentrate on what I'm doing in front of me. And the project turned out great. And honestly, I was fulfilled. I had a sense of accomplishment at the end of it.
So what I'll do when I have a client, one of the first things that we will do is you can go into your iPhone. If you have an iPhone, I'm not sure about the Androids, but you can go in and you can check how many times you actually pick up your phone and you can see. So most people right now are in the hundreds, just saying. And what I'll do is I will challenge them to put their phone away for several hours, and it's uncomfortable. Everybody has this adverse reaction, like, oh, I can't do that. But then what happens is that they get so much done as a result of not picking up that phone. And it's just become habit now. Like we wear it on our bodies, right? And we got to see something. There's an email waiting, but really there's no email necessary. My husband actually said to me, he's like, did you respond to the email? And I'm like, no, I don't need to respond. Nobody needs my attention right now. So I always ask people, the other thing I do is I ask people to wait 24 hours. My husband's like, what? Like, yeah, just have people start waiting. You be in control of your time. You be in control of those responses, because answering a quick response like an email like that, if you're on the phone at the same time, or you're trying to manage your child or your dog, and then you hit send and that thought wasn't complete, that could be devastating.
Huge. And you know what? And I think in the recovery community, this is a double down moment for people in early recovery, right? Like you definitely want to put a pause on everything that you do. There were so many great things that you just said there. I got to unpack. I got to unpack these, Lynn. One, the phone. I hear so many people say now, like, hey, I'm 60 years old and I must be ADHD. And I'm like, no, I don't think you're ADHD. I just think that you're addicted to your phone.
Yeah.
Right. You're addicted to that instant response. And I love this whole thing about like what you told your husband about, like, hey, is a response really needed here? And who controls whose time? And this is the thing about recovery that I think is a game changer with what you do with mindfulness and recovery, because you start claiming back that time.
Yes.
Right. You get more time out of the investment, not less time with mindfulness and meditation.
We have blurred the lines, right? All of our relationships, business, pleasure, family, it's all become very blurry. And everybody expects a response. And that puts so much pressure on us. That's like, I can't even create a clear thought when I'm under that kind of pressure. So that's why I, ask my clients to put hard boundaries in line. That's why I put hard boundaries, because I want to be able to respond effectively and give the response that's needed. That's going to be honest and truthful, right? And when we're multitasking, who knows how I'm going to answer.
There's doing, and then there is successful doing, right? Actually doing something. And it was funny. One of my friends pointed out, and he actually showed me on the phone, actually, he showed me little videos of people. He said, the most successful people in life, the men and women who are the most successful, they're not on their phone all the time. Somebody else is using their phone. They're deep into conversations with people. They get really deep. They go very deep into one channel or one thing that they're doing, and they become very successful at it. And they also know how to drop things that aren't successful for them, right? That they know that's like, you know what? Like I could be doing better things. Like I can, like laundry. I know how to do laundry, right? But like the investment for me, it's better for me to be really focused on something I'm world class on that can generate revenue that somebody else can do the laundry. That's just an example, right?
Correct. Yes. That's it. That's a good example. So
everybody hates laundry.
Everybody hates laundry, but it has to get done. Okay. It has to get done. Just like the dishes in the sink, they have to get done. But if you're on a work call, I'm going to go back to work call, or if you're on a recovery call and somebody is thinking about drinking, you don't want to be doing the dishes or your laundry and half attention, right? Your attention is like, some of your attention is going into doing the laundry instead of being on the phone, being very clear with the person who's thinking about drinking or making a decision about, your company. So there has to be lines drawn, or it's just going to become, again, this muck, this like convoluted, confusing output from you. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants it. It's not good. And we're in 2022. So let's be clear-minded.
Yeah, exactly. A friend of mine said something that was great. He said, multitasking is so 1987. to me, and he was like, look, the science is there, the neuroscience is there, and and he's in recovery, and he was just like saying, this just does not work for me anymore. And I'm at that point too, where it no longer, I gotta be honest, Lan, I still bite at the illusion that I can do 5 things at once, because I think it's a time compression, but it's not I've realized now, I've grown up in my maturity, that it's not a time compression. It's a time suck for me. So I have to ask you, I want it, because I know people are listening to this and are like, Damon, Lane, that sounds great, but how in the hell do I start practicing that? How do I do it? What's the first step that I do to stop multitasking? Because I've done 20 years, 30 years or whatever of multitasking.
right? So the first thing I will do with a client is I get rid of the phone, right? And now we have, excuse me, we have the devices connected to the phone, and then we have an iPad and we have screens everywhere. So I ask people to just work on one device and put everything else away. That's ground zero. The next thing is I will have people go back to pen and paper and do a to-do list. It sounds so elementary, but that hard copy task list, one thing at a time, works. Laundry, top of the list. Just get it done, get it out of the way. Payroll, create content, grocery shopping, one thing at a time. And then suddenly at the end of your shift or 4 hours or 6 hours, you're like, I scratched everything off the list. There's a sense of accomplishment. Without that list, you don't even know what's happened. You forgot about the laundry because you got so deep on doing your payroll taxes or something, right? Like it's tax season's coming up. So people are going to be head down trying to figure that out. And then nothing else gets done. So when we'd have that nice checklist, check it off. That is a game changer.
I love that. I love that. You know, I'm a very big proponent of win first, then play.
Yeah.
And I found, Lane, the deep, dark secret that most people don't talk about in recovery and in sobriety is that many people overdo. They're addicted to doing because they really don't know what they want. And they're afraid to say that they don't know what they want.
Yep.
Because they're like, they keep hearing in 12-step meetings and everything. It's like, well, you know what? I got sober and God probably doesn't want me to just sit here. So I should be doing something.
Yeah.
But they've never really taken the time to sit down to say like, hey, how can I be of service? Like, how am I going to be, how is this going to work for me? Is this economically going to work for me? What do I really want out of my work or personal relationships? Right. No. And most people do not know what they want. So they use this overdoing to try to compensate that somehow it's going to get them to a place where they're going to figure out what they want. But what they really get, what I find, is a lot of what they don't want, right?
Yeah. Confusion. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said about knowing your worth and your value. And people forget and they don't know. And so that's part of the work of like putting everything away and getting back to basics. I think 2022 is a year to just get back to who we are, right? We are human beings here having this spiritual experience, and putting pen to paper and writing things down. Like, this is what I value in my life. Like, I value family time. So if I'm multitasking and at the end of the day, I've got nothing really completed, then my interactions with my family are not going to be great. I'm not going to be satisfied with life. So understanding your worth and your value is so important, because it will force you to put the multitasking to the side, because you're going to want to be a part of your family and you want to be a part of whatever. And I'm bringing the family up as just one example, but knowing your worth and your values is huge as we start this new year.
It's key. Because, I think this whole work home balance thing too. And look, that's all that when you tap into this, Lane, you start talking about this dirty word that I hate, which is balance.
Yeah.
Right. I remember in college, I was involved in this organization. The whole thing was like becoming the balanced man or whatever. And it sounded great, but it was just like, balance isn't like, it's not something that I'm attracted to. Right. Like, people typically that are in recovery are not like, we don't like balance. We don't like balance. And multitasking allows us to really dive in and actually complete something. And I found by not multitasking, that is where the balance starts to come from.
Yeah. Yeah. So people in recovery are very all over the place, unbalanced, go, 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 multitasking. It's too much, right? And what we crave and we don't recognize is that sense of calm. Like, everybody loves calm. Everybody does. Everybody loves to sit down and watch Netflix and chill out. Am I right? I mean, everybody wants to zone out. Well, when you're practicing mindfulness and having a meditation practice, you're in that zone. When you're multitasking, you're so far from that zone, you're not even near it. So making that commitment to yourself to just do one thing at a time gets you closer to that zone, right? And in that zone is where we have those great insights. And that's when we feel really connected to the people that we love or our dog, right? We're just chill. That's where I know people in recovery, they want to get into that zone and they think multitasking is going to be the answer because they got to get it done. No, so opposite.
And really, look, all of us that are, if you're listening to this and you're watching this, you know that really recovery, the goal for most people, and I think everybody has this in common in recovery, is that they want to be able to successfully live in the here and now.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do this episode with you. And this is such great service. Thank you, Lane, because I hear this all the time about multitasking. So if you're listening to this, right, and you're a chronic multitasker, and you just can't focus on it, like you just feel like your life's being sucked away, right? It's like, really listen to this episode again, because there's so many really, you've really laid out a plan here for people to jump off of the wheel, right? Because if you win the rat race, you're still a rat.
You're still a rat.
And so you don't want to be a rat, right? And so no one got sober. No one's going down the recovery path because they want to be stuck, right?
And that's what multitasking does. It gets us stuck. It keeps us far from our dreams, right? We get sober and we imagine our lives as best recovered life. But then we're like, oh, I'm still in the minutia and the junk. Like, no. If you just do one thing at a time and cross things off the list, you start to feel empowered and you start to become this this really strong person in recovery where people are like, what's going on with him? What's going on with him? That's cool. Look at all the stuff he's doing. Right. And then you have this conversation of like, well, how did you get it all done? And I did it just one thing at a time. One thing at a time changes your life. Just like with drinking, we stop drinking and everything changes.
Lane, this has been an amazing episode. Guys, if you want to find out more about Lane, I'm going to put a link in the show notes here so you can just click on it and find out more about her meditation and mindfulness practice. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.